Hey, y'all, you listening to the DSM, Diagnosis Sitcoms and Movies. We help make mental health more comfortable by using Black shows and movies we know and love to remove stigma by using culture. So join our convo with your host, Courtney Copeland, licensed mental health counselor and school counselor.
Dr. Rosie, full-time assistant professor at Governor State University.
Woo, woo! Yay, new job title. That's why you're fumbling. I need you to remember what it is, though.
I'm an assistant.
Yeah. So, like, you have it. Is it on your new business card? So you can hit people with
real. No, I don't have my business cards yet. I don't even have a key to my office. I don't really know if I really have a job. I'm just kidding.
I'll figure that out. Might be something good to clarify.
I don't officially have rights to be there until August 1st. They kick me out if I try to get up in there any earlier. So
you're trespassing before then?
Pretty much.
Okay. All right. So jumping right in. First things first, all I want to say is you got to choose now.
What does that even mean? I'm just kidding. No, really. What does that mean? What does it mean to have the juice?
It's a deep question that isn't really answered in the movie. I know Pac is searching for it real hard. Q doesn't seem to want it. Radames tried to pretend that he had it. But more importantly, I would like to know, what the hell does it mean when Samuel Jackson said, you done slid down a razor blade and landed in the alcohol river? That's what I need to know. What does that mean?
That means you in some shit. You are in some hurt. You about to be hurt. That's what that means. You know, my other favorite Samuel Jackson, quote is, just because you pour syrup on something doesn't make it pancakes.
Just because you pour syrup on shit don't make it pancakes. I used to always that number one thing, that butt. I don't know why you thought that was so tough. Dugout, man. Snappy, nappy, dugout. The snappy, nappy, dugout.
Nappy, nappy, dugout. I love it. Watching
that
it
was
again.
said by Orange Juice Jones, which made it even more funny. There was a lot of cameos in this movie that I sometimes didn't really recognize, but I was watching it this time. I said, wait a minute.
Let me just tell you, I was so happy. I never realized Queen Latifah was in here. Like, when I watched it originally as a kid, I was like, oh, okay. Now as an adult, I was like, oh, shit. Check her out. She's in this movie. Like,
Queen Latifah being great. She is in and has done everything. And she deserves all of her flowers now.
All of them. I can give her a clap. Clap for her.
That was beautiful. I heard those vocals, that harmony. It's amazing. If you're not aware, we are talking about the legendary movie Juice, starring Tupac Shakur, starring Omar Epps, starring Khalil Kain, and I always forget his name, but y'all know the dude from Lean on Me.
Lean on Me? Samuel Jackson?
No. Girl Steel.
Oh.
Who you be making me worry about you sometimes?
Jermaine Hopkins.
I like how quickly you Googled that. Yes. That was seamless, girl. That was seamless.
I'm a good person. That's what matters. I'm terrible with names, but I'm still a good person.
So not only all of the cameos, the star-studded appearances that were in this movie, as well as the very talented cast, the soundtrack was dope.
Listen, it really was.
Especially like for the time, they had Rakim, Big Daddy Kane, like they had just Teddy Riley. They had so many people on this soundtrack.
So on this soundtrack, didn't Tupac have a few songs on there? I feel like so I was watching this random side point. Okay, so Omar Epps did this interview talking about his experience filming Juice with Tupac and how Brenda Has a Baby became a thing. So apparently, you know, this was Omar Epps' first movie ever. They were all teenagers. They're like 17, 18 years old. They get them to go to to Harlem. So like they're actually in Harlem. And he's like, being a bunch of teenagers, like this was a great time for us. Tupac actually befriended some guys within the community, and they ended up stealing some equipment.
At a lot of like random video shoots, movie shoots. He would just go into the hood and go hang out with the people.
Well, unfortunately for him, they actually stole some equipment from them. So that wasn't the plus for him in this moment. And the sad part was on the news, and at that time, there was this huge story about a young mother, teenage mother, who left her baby in a dumpster. And Omar Epps was just talking about how Tupac was really heartbroken by the story and really felt some type of way about this story. He wouldn't let it go. So eventually he shared with him for the first time what he wrote for Brenda Has a Baby. So I thought that was like really interesting to understand him as an individual. Of course, when you're acting, people are able to separate themselves from the actual character. But the character he was playing was like, this mean asshole. And then here he is as himself, as Tupac, like really grieving and mourning the loss of a baby that wasn't even his, or just like the fact that he was so hurt that someone could do that to a child. So I thought that was an amazing story that Omar Epps shared. So you can find it, watch it.
I saw that because I've watched, I feel like, probably every Tupac documentary there is. And he talks about originally seeing the story. And then as time went on, the story getting smaller and smaller and smaller. But they're not coming to any answers. And him being upset with like the condition of life that someone must be in to make that decision. And people just being able to carry on with their everyday lives. And while there are stories like that, numerous throughout in any city USA, this was stuck out to him because it was at a poignant time for him, and it birthed his first hit of Brenda Got a Baby.
Yes. Just thought I'd add that.
Appreciate it. Little jewels, little nuggets, which again are all throughout this movie because I find it hilarious. The movie starts off with Q. We are introduced really to all of the characters within the first 2 minutes of the movie. All of the main characters are introduced, and we actually get to see their family life, their home life, which is something in movies that isn't always the case. They kind of build up and you get layers of people, but this movie, they just hit you, boom, right at the beginning. They give you a lot of backstory of all of the people involved, which I thought was really cool. And so first they have Q and his mom. We didn't find out he had a younger brother until much later. I don't know why the younger brother didn't make it in the beginning. Oh, yes, we did. We saw him. He was standing like in the corner. He just didn't say nothing. Who happens to be Junior from off of My Wife and Kids, was his younger brother.
Get out of here.
Yeah, that's George O'Gore. George E. Gore.
It's like
George
his
Gore.
head just continued to grow and his body just stopped when he was in My Wife and Kids. Had he had the same head, I would have known it was him. I had no idea. Look at him.
We meet Bishop, who lives with his grandmother and his father. I didn't Google it, but I did pause it for a second. I think his grandmother was the same lady from Coming to America that said, "If you're really a prince, I'll marry you." They look exactly the same. I might need to Google the name and make sure.
So you're trying to say all Black grandmas look the same?
No, I'm trying to say this Black grandma looks the same. Trying to say this black grandma looks the same. Don't you get me caught up in no shit.
Black lives matter. Black grandmas matter.
Anywho, still lives at home with both of his parents. They are together in the same household. His brother, who pulls him off the bed, who I have always just wanted to do that ever since I saw this movie. Because
let me just tell you, it's not a good
fatness
feeling.
never prospers, as he tells. That's some evil shit to say to somebody. Fatness never prospers. He said it with such angst.
I hope he's fat.
You hope life just dealt him that hand.
Right. Me and my double chin, we're over here like, I hope you're fat.
And then we're introduced to Raheem as well. And it is him, his mother, and his sister who all live together in their household. And she's to drive her way into the bathroom because she actually has to go to work. And Raheem is just kicking it with his friends, but he will not let her into the bathroom for less than $5.
Listen. And as soon as she told him, oh, you got a little chest, you've been working
looking real fine. Listen. I give it to you later. You can tell that this is clearly before cell phones because they meet up with each other by going to each other's house and yelling out of their windows, which I thought was hilarious.
I know, right? I was like, no, you can't text and be like, I'm outside. No, you can't.
But more importantly, you couldn't go knock on that man's door.
Nah.
That's when we find out that Raheem is a father.
Yes. Bonnet.
And Keisha is his baby mama. She said that, you have a thing for Raheem.
Let me just, behave myself. But I do. I'm cute. They could all get it.
Even still?
Nah.
You don't want to do the hoochie coochie, my friend.
Nope.
So, he has a baby with Keisha, which I kind of felt like explained a lot of his leadership energy in the group. He kind of had a paternalistic role as being the leader of the group and, hey, go get my cigarettes and it's your turn and stop. That's out of here. We're not doing that. He shut a lot of stuff down. He introduced the idea of sticking up the Aquila store.
Which had me really upset.
Explain.
I'm like, you're such a good leader. And here you are leading these young men to do something stupid like this. Like, all y'all. But the sad part is because he was deemed the leader and, had that paternal instinct, they felt it was something that they could do. But on the other hand, Q knew it was wrong. He never wanted to do it in the first place. So that's why I was just kind of like, come on now.
That's twofold for me. I feel like Raheem knew that Q didn't want to do it. And that's why when he met him on the stairs to say, hey, we're going to meet up on, he didn't tell. He was like, why don't you just tell me now? He was like, later, because he knew he was going to say no. So if he did it with everybody, they could all together peer pressure him into doing it. Which I feel like Q didn't want to do it because it was testing their luck. Because if you listen when the police are interrogating them later on, they say, we know you got popped last year for busting Aquila's store. So they had already robbed that store previously, but got caught. So
that's right.
To Q being like, no, why are we going to do that? Whatever. But then he was like, he's not going to pull out on somebody that got a gun on him. So saying, well, we got a gun now, so it's going to go off without a hitch. And they tied the police cars because maybe they didn't do that last time, and that's how they got caught up. So I like the little subtle intricacies of that whole play of it. I think that Radames, wherever they found him, he is the most terrible actor I have ever seen, ever in life. Whoever that Puerto Rican man is that played Radames.
You didn't like his acting?
Motherfucker!
Him,
He's
the villain.
idol.
Yeah, he was a bit extra. Mm-hmm.
But for no reason. I just didn't understand. Like, because what I found interesting is that from my many years of documentaries is that Tretch was originally going for the role of Bishop. He had Tupac with him. Tupac was like, well, I'm here. Let me go ahead and do it. You know, Tretch was like, go ahead and audition. He read for the part. He did so well. Tretch was like, yeah, bro, you got that. So Tretch ends up being one of Radamez's goons and is in the background. I'm like, did Tretch do so bad that he couldn't play? So anybody could have played Radamez. But them being so close, I thought was funny too, because like later on, if you listen to Pac, he like, man, the one with the braids, I was about to crack him. And then like when they actually do fight, he go for Tretch first because in real life they're friends. I thought that was cute. But somebody else needed to be Radamez.
Yeah, because he was annoying. He was definitely one of those annoying characters. Like, shut up. Why are you still alive?
Dad, alive? You want the man to die?
You know, I thought he was going to be the one to get taken out first. You know, I was like, he got to go. Even as a kid, when I first watched, I was like, please, let it be him. He didn't do him first.
So do you remember watching this movie as a kid?
I do. I do remember it. And I felt so confused.
Really?
Yeah, and I was just like, you know, like, wow.
I remember this is the very first movie that I can remember going to the movies to see. Like, I can fully remember me and my mom getting on the train, going downtown to the downtown movie theater.
Your mom took you to see this movie?
Because my mom's a G. Appreciate you. Wow. Good looks. I remember the smell of the popcorn because downtown movie theater popcorn smelled different. Like, I remember the whole experience of going to see this movie. This is the first movie that I can remember going to a movie theater to go and watch.
Well, okay, I'm going to share my age. This is 92. I was definitely a toddler. So.
I was only 4. I shouldn't be able to remember this, but I fully remember going to the movies to go see this.
Well, I don't, like, I remember seeing it, of course, not at 2, but like around 6 or 7 while it was like, you know, on somebody's VHS.
No, it was on someone's VHS.
Dude, I almost misspoke.
Girl, there were no DVDs at the time.
Oh, what am I talking about? So yeah, I remember seeing it on VHS or probably, maybe HBO or some crap like that. And I was just like I remember feeling like I didn't like Tupac. Like, and that movie villainized him for me. And of course, growing up in New York, and it's like Tupac and Biggie, it's like, nah, Biggie, because Tupac is mean.
Because
that's
Tupac
what I
killed
had.
Raheem. Like, how can we support him after he did that?
And you know when they came out with the song, "We Always Love Big Papa," like the song. So a kid asked me, "What does it mean? Why do they say we always love Big Papa?" And I was like, maybe because he's everybody's papa. And so I didn't realize that he had died. Like, I don't know where I was as a kid, but I just wasn't all the way there. Even as an adult, I don't think I'm all the way here with things that are happening. So that's just where I was with this movie. The end.
I had a roller coaster with Pac, I remember as a child. And part of it I didn't remember. Like, one of my cousins or uncles had to remind me, and it was like, no, you didn't like him at this point, but then you started liking him again. He just had a lot going on at the time. Yeah. I was young. I didn't understand the global impact that he would have on my life throughout the rest of my years. But at the time, me and him, that's issues.
Wow. I hope you worked through that.
I did want to mention that in my neighborhood, that song, that Big Papa song, was used to make fun of loose mamas. We'll always love your mama.
Damn. You were a part of that?
Um, like I was saying, it's just funny to hear other people's experiences with different things in different places.
You big bully. And here you are, school counselor. Look how the world done turned around.
God had a calling on my life. He knew what he was doing. He needed to take me through it. So that I could be.
So you can understand both sides. I know, right?
Yeah. But I mean, we kids, everybody got both sides. Do you see? I've been this bright my whole life. I had to fight.
All my life, I had to fight. Speaking of bullies, wasn't who was the biggest bully in this? Obviously.
He was bullying the hell out of Steel. Even when they were like friends during the fun part. For one, if I lose, I'm gonna beat that ass. For two, if I lose, I'm gonna beat that ass. Put my fucking quarters in and get this goddamn game started.
And I'll be getting that ass. another
Steel was getting bullied by his friend.
I know.
And Steel stuck in school again.
But you couldn't tell him nothing. Like he had all the swag with his little bucket cap on, you know.
There were some hilarious parts of the movie, like when they did tell Steele that Donald Bromwell used to be Donald Bromwell.
That was a good one. That was.
And I appreciated that even it being 92, there was no negative connotations of that trans person experience. And they were so well in their presentation that they had Steele fooled. There was no bashing of Steele for
thank you so much.
His appreciation of the beauty. Yes. It's just, it warmed my heart. Because, a lot of times when you go back on some of these movies, some of the stuff they be doing, you'd be like, yeah, that's problematic.
Right. I really need to do a Google search of when they changed the word transvestite, because they were saying that word for a long time until recently. When did they change that?
This being the DSM, if we look closely, I think in the gender dysphoria section, that is still, I don't think it's specifically transvestite, but it is something along the lines of that. Have you been using it?
Transvestite originated in 1910. No, ma'am. Transsexual was not coined until 1949, and transgender was not coined until 1971. Trans is a very British term, and that came in 1996.
Which would have been after this movie.
Yeah. So they still would have been like, they could have called it transvestite or transsexual. But so it's for someone to say transvestite, it's dated from 1910. So saying transvestite, I hate to do the comparison, but it's almost as equivalent to saying Negro, like having the term Negro mentioned.
Really?
In all right, I'm not gonna go there. Whatever.
Yeah, that got real deep real fast. But I was wrong. It is not in the gender dysphoria section of the DSM. If you are looking and follow along in your text, it is in the paraphilic disorders, and it is listed as transvestic disorder. But it is more so tied to those sexual urges being attached to that. You can have with fetishism if it is sexually aroused, if that person is sexually aroused by fabrics, materials, or the garments, or autogynephilia, where if they are sexually aroused by thoughts or images of self as a female. This has absolutely nothing to do with the movie, but
it doesn't. But it really kind of makes me upset that they've been deemed as deviant, in a similar light. Anyhow,
and let's not forget that while we are both mental health practitioners, still being aware that the DSM, the Diagnostic Statistical Manual, is still written from a white supremacist point of view, a patriarchal point of view, and clearly homophobic point of view. The being gay was only removed from the DSM so many years ago. So keeping that in mind, I hope all practitioners use that focus when working with people of color, people of various different lifestyles, sexual orientation, cultural backgrounds, is that it is still a very supremacist used tool to control people. But that doesn't mean that all mental health is used in that way, and that everyone should still be focused on healing and being the best them that they can be. And that is why we need more people of color, especially Black practitioners in our field.
Yes.
I'm going to get off my soapbox.
I loved it.
So, I feel like even though Steele was like the scared one, the comic relief one in the group, he was the most mentally stable person out of the whole little crew. He was just scared. And the shit they was doing was scary. He was supposed to be scared.
Mm-hmm. So between Steele and Q, who do you think even Q was mentally unstable?
I feel that he had some issues afterwards, after Raheem was killed. I feel like before that, yes. But I feel like him coping through the death of Raheem, with the murder of Raheem, and Bishop being the one killing him, was very difficult for him to cope with. He did often have like flashbacks of seeing Raheem. He then became super hypervigilant, had exaggerated responses to being startled when he almost shot the homeless man. Another overactor, don't shoot me. Please, please, don't shoot me. But
gosh.
I feel like both of those are examples of his difficulty with coping with the loss. And we'll talk about diagnosis later, but I definitely felt like there was some trauma, stress induced disorder there with him. Well, as I feel with Steele, he witnessed the same murder. He even spent more time with Bishop, being that Bishop, took him to the arcade and they had spent time together. And he was scared and then was shot by Bishop. He still seemed to be coping with things in a more healthy, adaptive way. I think he definitely will need some form of therapy afterwards. But throughout the movie, that boy was solid in his mind. And he was a strong young Black man. He got shot in the shoulder and pulled himself up
by the bootstrap. Right.
All the way to the street.
Hallelujah. I didn't have any other responses.
Clearly. I also liked that you could tell the times from the movie by there not being social media. So he found out about the DJing contest from the poster on the wall. I was like, it wasn't off like a feed. Nowadays, it would be like scrolling, look, y'all. But he saw it on a poster.
Yeah, I thought it was cool that he had his own sense of being. Like, he had a hobby, he had a skill. And I feel like if Bishop just had something other than just wanting to dominate or feel some sense of control or power is what I'm getting because of his home life. It's like he had to assert dominance and power in other aspects. And so with his friends, he could do that. And we could talk about Tupac and Bishop and his father's relationship too. I'm sure we'll talk about it some more, but I do feel like had they had different things that they were interested in outside of each other as a group, they probably wouldn't have been in trouble. That's just maybe my open-mindedness.
And really, I feel like we can dive into that now. I think that a lot of Bishop's issues with wanting the juice, wanting that control, wanting to assert dominance to the point of toxicity came a lot from, and we just assume it to be true because of how upset his response was. But his father being incarcerated and dealing with the trauma of being assaulted, violated, and abused in prison. And that having an effect on him in the long run. It doesn't say whether or not he suffered from anything prior to him being incarcerated, but if he didn't, and this is the result of all of the stuff that went on the inside, that's terrible. If he did, it can almost be expected that he was then violated, because those vulnerable people are the most likely the ones to be violated, to be assaulted, to have horrible things happen to them on the inside, because they are a vulnerable population. People feel like they do stuff to people because they can. And unfortunately, there aren't any real mental health services offered inside of the prisons. They might give you some medication management, but other than that, it's ass whoopings and isolation.
Basically. I mean, the institutionalization.
Let it marinate for a second.
Institutionalization. And I just can't pronounce words. Institutionalization.
Think of a different word.
But that's what happened. You know, most men who are coming out of prison are institutionalized. And in some cases, you know, they become used to this type of lifestyle and living. And so what was interesting viewing the movie more deeply, is that even when he was watching what he was watching on TV, he was watching cartoons. You know, and then the fact that he placed money in his shirt pocket made me think, okay, is there a dysfunctional, like a cognitive dysfunction disorder, or is there an addiction in there as well, or is this depression? So it was just so many things that I started to think about just in that moment where he places that and he tells him, take it easy. So all of that is what I'm kind of using to determine what diagnosis would be given to the father. And then even, what's the bully's name? Radames,
honey.
Radamez.
Oh, Lord.
Radam. Oh, God. Radamez.
You said Radim.
Radimez. Radamez said, you crazy just like your father, to Bishop. And he about took him out. And so I think, I don't know what his diagnosis would be. Possibly bipolar depression.
So I have gone a couple different avenues with this.
Okay.
First things first, I would like to know what the hell his daddy was supposed to do with $5. That's a grown ass man. And he put $5 in my pocket.
That's 1992. $5 had a little bit of a value back then.
The party tape cost $15. Maybe it was just for a pack of cigarettes. Maybe I'm okay.
But that again also says, okay, this is him inserting power, because like, I got you, Dad. I'm gonna give you $5. You know?
No, I completely get it. And the clinical side of me, yes, agrees with you. However, the petty part of me says, as a grown ass man, and you gave him $5. But that's neither here nor there.
Do you know what you could do with $5 and Five Below? You can buy so many pieces of candy. You can buy.
That was Harlem in 92. Was there a Five and Below?
There was a 99-cent store, and a 99-cent store is jewel. Actually, at that time, you was able to get 10-cent packs of sunflower seeds. Now they only have the 25-cent pack. And you was able to get the little annihilator for 5 cents too. I know I'm talking about. And the Swedish fish for 5 cents.
You get a Huggy for a quarter.
Exactly. So you can have a whole ass meal with $5. As a kid, $5 was a lot.
But that was a grown man. Okay, again.
But the grown man was also watching cartoons. So maybe that's why he only gave him $5, because he's maybe not responsible enough to do anything more with more money.
Again, clinically, I feel you. Petty. Anyway,
you could get heroin for $5.
We got them drug addicted too.
Institutionalization definitely
could explain his catatonic state. Speaking of the catatonic state, has led me down different corridors on possibly thinking on why I would need more information in order to be able to diagnose more fully. A lot of research and a lot of sites, a lot of things that I've read throughout the years, a lot of people, just talking about the film, said that Dad had post-traumatic stress disorder. However, there are certain hallmarkers of post-traumatic stress that we're not able to see or witness in our brief interaction with the dad and the things that we hear about him. Now, follow me for a second. What if Dad had schizophrenia, which would explain the catatonic state? It would be an unspecified. We don't know if it's continuous or if it's unspecified. I would go with unspecified because he did give him money because he couldn't continuously be in a catatonic state, which means he's not moving, he's not functioning, there's no response. He wouldn't have given him the money if, he was continuously in that. But also, if Dad did have schizophrenia as a result of the years of trauma that he did sustain, schizophrenia can also be hereditary. And so what if the things and the behaviors that we were seeing in Tupac were not the symptoms of some other diagnosis, but were his reactions to the changes that he was going through because of the onset of his possible schizophrenia? And let that marinate for a second. What you think about that? I'm not saying that he was schizophrenic. I'm just saying that it's another potential possibility of why I would need more information. And giving the setting, giving the environment that Tupac Bishop, given the environment that Bishop was living in, he could not react in a way that people would assume him to with the onset of schizophrenia, because that would be seen as weakness. And with his issues of power and control, him asserting himself in that way would make a little bit more sense, as well as in males right around that age range, 17 to about 24 is when you start to see that onset of schizophrenia. If it is something that just happens hereditarily as opposed to a result of some outside.
Well, what comes to mind is, you're right. I am crazy. And you know what else? I don't give a fuck.
I don't give a fuck about you. I don't give a fuck about Steele. I don't give a fuck about Raheem. I don't give a fuck about myself. And you less of a man than me.
Man, so, do you know where you are mentally to really say that? I don't give a fuck about myself.
Look, I ain't shit. I ain't never gonna be shit. As soon as I decide that you ain't gonna be shit, so be it. You remember that. Because I'm the motherfucker y'all need to be worried about. Partner. And then he was so confident in that Q wasn't going to do nothing. He turned his back on that nigga and pulled his hood up. And was just like, I'm walk off, part in my back.
Damn.
But yes, and so I struggle with whether or not we were seeing the onset of schizophrenia or because of his age. I had to take into account his age as well. Because, I'm very quick to always be like, whoopsie, antisocial personality disorder. But I wanted to fully take into account his age and look at him possibly having a severe case of conduct disorder with adolescent onset. I say adolescent onset instead of childhood onset is because they were friends, they had this bond, and then all of a sudden as they got older, it progressively separated them. So that's why I said with adolescent onset, with limited pro-social emotions, including callousness and lack of remorse or guilt. And that lack of remorse or guilt comes from that I don't give a fuck about you, I don't give a fuck about Steele, and I don't give a fuck about Raheem either.
When you first introduced the schizophrenia as a possibility, I was like, yeah, I can see that. But now that you're mentioning this conduct disorder, it's like, that is definitely what you're seeing because there is no remorse. Absolutely none.
Let me throw this monkey wrench in there again because I've been thinking about this and I've been thinking about it. And the more I think about it, I think the more that I confuse myself because I also thought about schizotypal personality disorder. And so looking at that,
what's the criteria?
Go back to my DSM. I will read the criteria for you. It is in the personality section of our DSM. It is a pervasive pattern of social and interpersonal deficits marked by acute discomfort with and reduced capacity for close relationships, as well as cognitive or perceptual distortions and eccentricities in behavior. So I say that because he started pushing them away. Those close relationships, that was his close relationship, his system of support. He started pushing them away. He was bullying Steele. Him and Q started getting arguments all the time. And then those distortions and eccentricities of behavior, those cognitive and perceptual distortions, when he shot the store owner, he made a move. No, we didn't. We was looking right at him. Right. Yes, he did. And then later on, when he shot Raheem, he shouldn't have went for the gun like that.
Yeah.
Our beliefs that influences behaviors is inconsistent with subcultural norms. So belief in other things and preoccupations, unusual perceptual experiences, odd thinking and speech, which could be his over elaborative, like when he had that whole story of planned out on how he was going to frame Q, how he was going to blame him for all of the murders, and he was just the only one who was man enough to stop him. The suspiciousness or paranoid ideation, because for a while it did seem like he was protecting himself because they were out to get him, so he was being preemptive and attacking everyone else first.
Yeah, it makes me think about when he said that he felt like he was on a track team because he felt like he was running from everybody. All we do is run. Yeah.
And with that, I also saw the excessive social anxiety that does not diminish with familiarity and tends to be associated with paranoid fears rather than negative judgment about self. He didn't think nothing else. He didn't think nothing was wrong with him. He thought something was wrong with everybody else. So I have 3 different options.
See, and now I feel like I sound incompetent because now I'm like, I like that one now too. No, but okay, out of if it was a first, second, or last diagnosis, I definitely feel like the last one definitely speaks to him and his behaviors. Of course, the other ones could possibly apply, but we would need a little more. I think this one
again, considering age. We technically could not diagnose him with any of those other things because, well, actually, he is over the age of 15. However, with continuity of care and you not wanting to diagnose high, you rather diagnose low and then treat what you need to treat. I would say that he probably, more than likely, would end up with a conduct disorder diagnosis that eventually led to maybe a personality disorder, or if it was schizophrenia, then that will come later on. But starting out, even from his experiences at school with him not going, being truant, and then the experience of him helping rob a store last year, all of that would probably factor into him receiving a conduct disorder diagnosis.
Also, his real investment and excitement to go into the bar and be a part of that stick up. Like, let's do this. Like, what you mean? No, he was ready to be, in that type of action. And so, I think that's just another instance where he just wasn't fully aware of the consequences of his actions.
But I feel like he might have been aware and fully accepting of the consequences of those actions, because he asked Q more than once, "Are you ready to die?" And he talked about how Blizzard, he died, but he got his juice. Yeah, the man in the movie, right? He died. He took his destiny in his own motherfucking hands. But he died, but he took his destiny into his own hands. He exerted his power, his control, and then died with the juice.
So death was the sacrifice you'd have to make to have the juice.
It's a possible sacrifice, but you have to be willing to risk it in order to get it.
But then, even though he risked it by he didn't get thrown off. He kind of accidentally fell off the roof. Then it went to Q. So all of that for it to land in Q's hands in the first place, at the end, and he didn't even want it in the first place.
He didn't want it. And it was thrust upon him. I feel bad. But I also heard that for 25th year home release version something, there was an alternate ending.
Oh.
Yes, girl. And so in the alternate ending, everything leading up is the same. And then he's holding him over the ledge. And Bishop, I stop calling him Pop.
I know, right?
Bishop hears the sirens and says, "I'm not going to jail," and willingly lets go. But that's so much more theatrical. I wonder why they didn't go with that one.
Because is it then glorifying suicide? Because that was also an era in television, especially and that's why we got a lot of I wrote it. That's why there was a lot of pushback for 13 Reasons Why, because I think our society has this fear of addressing a lot of issues, including one of them being suicide, and stigmatizing a lot of things that are outside of the norm. And so I wonder if that was not the chosen ending because he commits suicide.
Potentially see that if his alternative wasn't prison. You have to think his father allegedly was raped multiple times in prison. Prison is what turned his father into the state that he's in now, assuming from what we were given. It's like the people it's like Killmonger. I bury me at the sea. It's better than life in bondage. So I don't know with that one. If his alternative wasn't prison, then yes. But his alternative being prison and his experience with someone that he loves being in prison and what that did to him and what happened to him on the inside, I could see not wanting to live that life.
Okay, and then I think maybe why they didn't have the ending of him just letting go is then now who's going to get the juice? And so it's did he earn it more because he let him slip away with the version we saw?
I don't know.
Does that change him, seeing him die?
I think it probably would have been healthier for Q if Bishop let go than him not being able to hold on. Granted, he was shot in the arm because Bishop shot him in the arm, and he's trying to hold him up. So I can see how he would physically not be able to potentially hold him up. But
and then also the fear of being taken down with him.
The fear of being taken down, but he got to the point where he was like, it was like the evil Bishop left, and he was like, Q, don't let me go. Like hearing that was like, oh, and then the possible survivor's guilt that Q might experience because of his inability to pull him back up.
So this one guy, I'm not going to say any names, said something so deep when we watched it. You know, this one guy, his name begins with an E and his last name is S. Just do the initials. Don't want to give him too much credit. So, you know, he said that the imagery of even that scene of Bishop being swallowed by the darkness of that alley just was, you know, him finally falling into that ultimate darkness. Like it was creeping, it was grabbing at him, it was there, and then he succumbed to that darkness at the end. You know, I think that was a very artful expression of, you know, this tug of war that you could not, it wasn't even a war, like the darkness won in this movie with him. I think that was a really nice depiction of it, but don't tell the ES person I said it.
Nope, not at all. Lips are sealed. But that, you bring that up reminds me of the movie Ghost, where the shadows were chasing and pulling at the people that died, letting them know that they was going to hell. And then I found it ironic how many times he asked, and the intensity in which he asked Q, I don't know, nigga, you ready to die? But then when it came time for him, it was Q, don't let me go. With the ending that we got, it was Q, don't let me go. Like he wasn't ready to die.
Please, baby, please. He threw that on there. He definitely would have lived.
I wanted your reaction to, this is just pulling this out of the air, but I want your reaction to the elevator scene. What you gonna do? Shoot me in the elevator? How did you feel about that?
I was like, Lord. I was like, jeez. Like that. I was like, man, he really did. Why would you test him? Like, you know, he's crazy. Y'all had a whole conversation. You really put other people's lives in jeopardy just because you want to test to see if this nigga really, really crazy. Yes, he is. That was so annoying. Like, God, wait, idiot. Yes. And he showed you. I was like, good for your ass. That's just your ass get.
But more importantly, I appreciate how smooth the dude picks up the gun, puts it in his jacket, and continues to bop his head to the music.
Sick. Man is sick.
I was like, look in New York.
I know. Jeez.
And then them going into the party, and the song that's playing is Cypress Hill. Oh, I could just kill a man. I said, oh, this is so perfect. This is so perfect. Whoever did the score. But if you notice, when when Q walks through the party looking for Bishop, he finds Bishop by the window talking to a girl. I don't know if you paid attention, but the girl that he was talking to was the famous female rapper Yo-Yo, because at the time, Yo-Yo and Pac was messing around.
Get out of here. There's some tea. I live for it. I had no idea. You know, Yo-Yo's on Love and Hip Hop LA.
I don't know why, but yes.
Yeah, she's on there. So it's just kind of like, come on, Yo-Yo, why would you do that to yourself? You know what it means when you end up on Love and Hip Hop. Well, I can't say that.
I get her reasoning because she wanted to promote a lot of things that she was doing in the community with the youth. But you know they don't want to see that positive shit on there, Yo-Yo, and they're going to edit all that shit out, and they only going to show you breaking up fights between Instagram models and
I know.
coke addicted back page bitches.
Jesus. Why she do that? And then I'm like Remy Ma too. Like Remy Ma and Papoose, like, hey, y'all are trying to sprinkle y'all positivity, but nobody's here for it.
I absolutely love them. I have nothing negative to say about Remy Ma and or Papoose.
No, that's why I'm like,
I love everything about them. I like them being on Love and Hip Hop. They actually provide balance on the show.
The positivity.
They actually let them be positive. Yeah. Everyone else, they edit out all of their positive stuff. But Pap and Remy, I guess they probably only give them positive stuff to run. So they have to run it. But even when Rem first got out and she wasn't as positive yet, and she
was still institutionalized.
I drag bitches and hold on a second because I'm gonna have to smack this. I love them. I love Remy before. I love Remy when she was just featured on Big Pun CD. I love her since then. I just love her, and I'm glad that she stopped doing that wet and wavy weave because I didn't love that. I didn't.
What?
But I love her. No, you don't have what she had. You don't remember when she used to have the different colored this part bang.
Oh yeah. Oh like, Lord.
Wet and wavy, but it looked more like she just went back over it with a crimp iron.
Mm-hmm.
But neither here nor there. I love her. I love
90s hairstyles.
That was the 2000s.
Oh well, the 2000s was a little loose and reckless. It was kind of like transitioning from the 90s into the early 2000s. It was rough. We didn't know if we wanted to be space aliens or what.
It was really rough for hair during that time.
But I think for Black women, because it was like, are we still doing this perm or are we going natural? It was just this weird thing.
The transition phase for us.
We were rocking the braids going to the back, and we would have the bandana with the diamonds on it. That's what we was. You remember that?
And there was a lot of bad leave out.
Yes, most certainly. Yeah, quick weaves was it. There was popping. Horsehair made a comeback. Wow, talk about transition. We're here. Anywho.
I felt like this film did a good job of expressing the mistrust for police and law enforcement all throughout the film, the entire criminal justice system without it ever being spoken. The violations of Bishop's father while incarcerated, everyone's refusal to call the police to fight. And then the dopest line, unfortunately, because it's true and it's sad and it hurts that it is true, is when Quincy says, "We three niggas in a police station. You want us to be guilty? We'll be guilty."
Mm-hmm.
It hurt my heart.
Even the fact that they were like, playing their games in the arcade or wherever the hell they were, and the fact that they just came in and could just start arresting people because, I guess,
but arresting them. That was the only time they was doing their job. Them was truancy officers taking the kids back to school.
Okay. But still, that just running after. Listen, I'm not. This is why I'm not in the field.
I'm not chasing. Because you ain't at school. That's your badge. You're not gonna have no money when you grow up unless you discover, invent, or design something. But I'm not doing all of that hard work.
I already got my degrees. I'm okay.
I'm past English.
This is why I can't have kids. I'd be like, you don't want to go to school? Cool. Cool.
But I just appreciate Samuel Jackson for being so cool. He's running the business and he is allowing all of them to be there. But when the police come, they're here to take y'all asses back to school.
As a matter of fact, you know you're wrong. I told you. And you know what's funny? He probably told them so many friggin' times and none of them listened. So he's like, it's fine. I'm not going to say nothing no more. They going to come and get y'all asses and I ain't going to say nothing else. That is the most Black man response you could give. Go ahead.
There were so many just unsung, strong Black characters. Samuel Jackson, sweet, who was selling all these kids weapons.
Listen, okay.
Tell your mama Sherry said hi.
Okay, like what? Yeah, ma, I bought a gun to get today, and the lady told me to tell you hi.
Yeah, she said, "What's up?"
She said, "What's up?"
Nah, Frank won't over there. Frank won't dare. But
Right.
but she said, "Hey."
But she said, "Hey." So let's talk about this pedophile in this movie before we end it, because I can't deal with her. She made me so uncomfortable. I did not realize what was really happening.
Me neither. So as a child, I'm like, ha ha ha, ex-husband, he's corny. He has patches on his elbows. Ha 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 ha. No, he has some sense. And is she going through psychosis? Was something wrong with her? Because one, she was grown enough. We don't know how old she really was, but she was grown enough to have a whole ass ex-husband. And she is talking to Q, who is clearly possibly a junior, maybe at best a senior in high school.
And he not doing good, clearly.
Problem number one. Two, if you listen to husband say, taking this save the kids bullshit a little bit too far, which means that she be doing stuff in the community to save the kids. Third, she can't even cook. She talk about, is there something wrong with your food? Hey, bitch, it came out of a box. No, I don't want this beef and broccoli. How did you light a candlelit dinner for us to eat beef and broccoli?
First of all, this is a very sexy meal. Very sexy. A lot of aphrodisiacs in the sauce.
Fuck you. Okay, and then 3 or 4, I done lost count. I'm counting. But that small heifer ain't even good at being a doggone nurse. Because when Still got rolled into that hospital room, she's gonna wear that old nasty ass damn CNA sweater with all outside and people's juices on it into that secure fucking sterile room where they are operating on someone with a whole gunshot wound, and you in there unauthorized just talking to them, touching all on them. You didn't even wash your hands.
Okay, I would just say that because it's a movie, they didn't realize what they was doing.
Okay, well then another point. She was working out. Q came over.
And he kissed her.
She didn't want to wash her ass before they did the nasty shit.
What's wrong with sweat?
Sweat, do you? Okay. No, because he's a fucking child. And then
another one? Come on.
Yes, because the bitch just a fucking predator, just a child, damn grooming ass predator.
Call
and it's
special victims. Call special victims right now. We need Olivia. Stat.
Yeah, she just violated Q in so many ways. And then why was you his older joint? He at your house because he like on the hideout because it's wild shit going on. Why Still got your number and feel comfortable calling your house?
A movie. It's a movie. I agree. So
and then she mad at him. Well, he's hypervigilant. And he recognizes his hypervigilance means that he's hyper aware and things are, scaring him, and his brain is picking up on stimuli a lot quicker and having a larger response to it. So she walks in the room, it scares the shit out of him because he is reading the article about Raheem's murder. Mm-hmm. And he's, proceeds to go in on her and be disrespectful. But then she says, I am now one of your little high school playmates. If you cannot respect me in my home, then you can get out of my home. That's the argument you want to use, you old bitch fucking with this little nigga?
Yes. And that's where I was so upset. I was like,
He only knows how to address you as high school because he's in high school.
Right. And so okay, now I'm thinking, I give her the benefit of the doubt. Like maybe she was a young teenage bride and she was, kind of coerced into this relationship with this dude. So now, as when she grows into becoming 21, she got married at 18, and then she turns 21, and then she's like, you know what? He's too grown. He's too grown. I like the childish. I want to go back to being a child. So she went to the younger folk. That's my theory. I'm sticking to it.
You don't believe that shit.
All right. That I did have a thought process like that because I'm just like, how close in age or how far in age are they? Because she still looked young too. I mean, her husband on the other end did look older. So I thought about that, and I was just sharing with you my theory, my internal theory. But I mean, I won't share that no more. Shit.
She took advantage of that boy.
She did. It was rape, and so that made me think about that whole thing with Lil Boosie and his son getting sucked off by some older woman, friend of Lil Boosie, and him saying that was him preparing him to be a man. So I think that kind of further perpetuates this idea that young Black boys are men well before they're even actually physically and like biologically men. And then we over criminalize our young Black boys and girls. And so, over sexualize our young Black girls and boys. And so with that, I feel like that continues to perpetuate this idea. And even just seeing that glimpse of that in a movie. But I mean, I'm sure if we actually looked and really paid attention, like there were more instances similar to this at that time too.
Yes, Yolanda just made me mad because if you are going to be the older chick that is dibbling and dabbling and messing with a younger dude, like that's not your boyfriend. She was treating him like that was her boyfriend. Like it's not like this was just, oh, that's her young thing, and divorcee, Stella trying to get her groove back, even though she, granted, is much younger than Stella, but she was treating him like a whole ass boyfriend.
That was weird.
They had a whole relationship and they had pictures together from previously, so which made me feel like, how long were you talking to this little boy?
Because she was helping him in the project.
You were above 18 this entire time, no matter how far back we go. But at some point, he's just getting younger and younger, and you're still above 18, and you just nasty.
Yeah, because I mean, when
his mama knew that she was talking to Yolanda.
Well, maybe he was a part of the program that she was facilitating, and like that was just one of her little young buds that she just was really fond of. And the older he got, the finer he looked.
She should go to jail, and that is why she should.
She should, but we don't have the same type of penalty or punishment, or even the same type of victimization for men who experience child abuse or rape.
We don't. The boys, honestly, men are taught to think that makes them more men because they were younger with an older woman. And as women, we are taught that you are being fast or that man is just gross. And it is not the same stipulations for males, which then creates an unhealthy relationship for them with sex and relationships as they grow older. And it's not fair. It's wrong. But I work in a school system. So if I ever see anyone doing anything like that, if I don't call the authorities on you, I'm going to whoop your ass because you nasty. You need your ass whooped. That's a kid. Oh. But I digress. Of course, I would not whoop somebody's ass. I am a mental health professional, and I have on my professional hat right now.
She meant it.
I'm just speaking that as a euphemism for the level of disgust that I would reach.
She meant it. She meant that.
Don't. However, moving on. How the fuck did the police know so quick? Like, the store got robbed. 20 minutes later, they went straight to the DJ competition.
Okay, talk about that. Definitely being a movie film. Like,
Q, we need you. We come down off the stage. Yeah, we need you and these two right here. Come on, us three.
Out of the crowd of people, you able to find them that quick? Get out of here. Get out. It's like, but they had my man, what's his name? That wasn't him? They look just alike in that movie.
They don't.
They do. They both had that, like,
are you
their hairline went that way.
You're talking about the detective, right?
Yeah, that guy.
No, that's not him.
That's not him?
But no, let's leave it because not everybody is going to be as versed in the films.
I was added to the cameos that you were talking about earlier. I was like, yeah, that's another one. I contributed, but not so much.
Yeah, there were a lot of cameos though. Like, Special Ed was the Keisha's new boyfriend that was picking her up in the car. I Samuel Jackson, of course. Orange Juice Jones. I still believe that the grandma is the lady that said, "I'll marry you." You can fact check me later if you feel like you need to. Of course, we had Queen Latifah, Ed Lover, Dr. Dre was in there. The Dr. Dre that goes with Ed Lover, not Dr. Dre from Compton. But we had Tretch as being one of the goons. There was a lot of people in this, on top of the already star-studded cast. However, they were star-studded at the time. A lot of them were early in their careers. We had Flex in the movie as well. But a lot of the people who were in this movie went on to do awesome and amazing things, to have longevity in their careers. So shouts out to the entire cast of this movie for being great and awesome. With all of that being said, we have talked about almost all of the characters. So going forward, we need to come to a concise diagnosis for our main characters, and as well as our prognosis. How do we see them getting better? What type of treatment would we offer these individuals to make sure that they are happy and healthy, functioning human beings later on in life, at least for the ones who are still living? Starting off with Bishop, have we come to a consensus of conduct disorder? Are we agreeing? Would you like to disagree? Pose a new possible diagnosis? What would you like?
I agree with conduct disorder. I'm going to stick with that one.
Age permitting, because we don't know exactly 16, 17, or 18 where he fell in there, or if at all. So conduct disorder, it would be. His dad, though, Bishop's father, what are you saying for him?
I agree with schizophrenia.
So what do you have, or can you speak to at all the common treatment methods for individuals with schizophrenia?
Medication.
Unfortunately, yes, that is the mainstay in treatment for individuals with schizophrenia. There's lots of medication management and a lot of case management, because unfortunately, a lot of people who are battling or diagnosed with schizophrenia are also battling other diagnoses. In addition to those, it often is that people are choosing to self-medicate and using other substances, or their schizophrenia has impeded their ability to function in everyday life or care for themselves in a regular way. So if they don't have family members that can help them and, check on them, make sure that their day-to-day is okay, they might struggle with things like housing, medical care, different things like that. And so other issues become larger because of their inability to handle them because of the schizophrenia diagnosis, as well as some of the side effects and states that occur because of the actual medications they are trying to take. We do know that medication management is different for every person, and a lot of times it is a lot of trial and error until that person finds the right medication cocktail that is for them. Q, we haven't talked about Q's diagnosis. What would you diagnose Quincy? And if you notice, his name is Quincy Call in this movie, and then later on he's Quincy McCall in Love and Basketball. I just want.
Wow, I love how you connected that. That was beautiful. I didn't know. As far as Quincy, I think PTSD obviously will have to be one of them, especially having experienced Raheem's murder and Bishop's murder or death. So PTSD is definitely there. Of course, major depressive disorder, likely as a result of the PTSD, and perhaps anxiety disorder, generalized anxiety. because of the heightened sense of having to defend himself, having to explain himself, because now he ultimately will be in the hot seat for possibly the death of, Bishop. I mean, and there were witnesses of this as well. So thinking about that and him possibly going to jail, and the outcome of this isn't looking too good for Quincy.
That is prognosis, yes, with the worst possible case scenario is him, yes, going to prison. And that is something that I did then worry about, because even if he can get Theo to corroborate his story that Bishop is the one who killed all of the other people, it is going to be very difficult to just let him. It is going to be very difficult to imagine that he would be allowed to just skate on Bishop's death, despite the fact that it was accidental. He was trying to save him, even though he is suffering from a gun wound from being shot by Bishop after fighting him, being hit with a pole by Bishop. It would be hard to sell that I really was trying to save him, and it is accidental, as opposed to, I guess, that easy, lightest be manslaughter. I'm not sure. But the value of Black life, I don't know if they would care more about locking him up, or if they just don't value Bishop's life, and so he can get off as a first-time offender and being a young child, or not a young child, but a teenager, or if they would try to charge him as an adult, and that could be very detrimental for Q. However, if the outside witnesses do corroborate that it was an accident, in which case Q could possibly heal less traumatically, I would start with diagnosing him with just acute stress disorder. It started from there because it did seem like he was mostly throughout the film just having issues coping with the loss of Raheem, which just could be not an extended time frame of him dealing with that. That could be just something that is for a certain time frame, maybe a little bit farther outside of bereavement, but just an acute stress disorder, with him being hypervigilant, him being aware that he was hypervigilant, and even talking to himself and saying, man, what's wrong with me, and different stuff like that. And then possibly, if it does continue, adjustment or disorder, and then further on going into full-on post-traumatic stress, and like you said, any other comorbid diagnosis that might go along with that as well. How would you treat all of that for Q? Because he's going to have a lot going on, and if he goes to prison, then unfortunately he won't see any treatment.
Right. I think ultimately the treatment would definitely have to be solution focused, very brief type of treatment while you can, if he even has access to it. Because, I mean, as a criminal, your rights are taken away. And so the right to adequate health care seems to also be stripped. And that's always a concern about individuals in prisons, the actual amount of actual healthcare they're getting. So that is hard to say, like how I would work with him, because also we're focusing on the death here too, but there's still also the case looming for the bodega or the corner store being robbed. And so because of that, that's an additional charge that will be on top of it, because, I mean, granted, they can say that Bishop shot the clerk at that store. But they would ultimately be pleading guilty to yet another burglary charge. So, I mean, and correct me if I'm wrong, was the other one, were they convicted or were they caught burglarizing the other spot?
Not sure. He just said you got popped for busting Akila's store last year. Right. But if him and Steele can, get together because he messing with Yolando nasty self, maybe she could get him inside to speak to Steele or get a phone to Steele, and they could work out their stories ahead of time and get on the same page, to whereas we were just in the store, we didn't have knowledge of this, and then he started to rob it. Bishop already gone.
But then that's also what makes the case difficult, because the dead man can't talk, and I do
Precisely.
believe that is there's a legal term for that I'm not aware of right now. So.
Unfortunately, we did not get much of Raheem to fully discuss. We got a lot of depth from Raheem's character for the amount of time that he was in the film. But we could not fully discuss any possibly treatment that he might need. Him and his Keisha could work on co-parenting. And he could definitely use some career counseling, because him as having to provide as a parent, that was something that he was not ready for. He was willing to help with the different things that he could, like, I can help take the baby. But she's like, no, this does not make you a man. I need a real man. I need somebody that's going to help. I don't want him to be fucked up like you and your friends. Mm-hmm. And so getting him maybe something that could sustain himself a little bit more so that he could contribute financially to Keisha and the baby, because I'm sure she would appreciate that. She still had love for the man. She showed up to the funeral. Poor little Raheem Jr. is going to grow up without a father figure. Well, I mean, he might have special ed because that was her boyfriend. So he might have a father figure, but without having his biological father. That still does leave a mark on children growing up, especially if they know that they are missing that parental person was taken from death. Phil, I again felt like he was the most mentally sane. I feel like he could benefit from therapy after all of this, of course, maybe a little narrative therapy to help like objectify and remove himself from all of what was going on by like empowering him from a skill-based perspective and like looking at the larger social cultural context of everything that was going on with him to help him through and make sense of everything that went on, because it was a wild story. What say you, ma'am?
I agree. I pretty much would give him the same treatment as Q, because they both, with acute stress disorder as well. Now that you mentioned that, because of the physical injuries that they both, received from Bishop, and then I'm trying to think if there was another. Post like the traumatic experience of the whole thing. Obviously, you can't not forget that. I mean, they were both shot, and so the traumatic experience of having a gunshot wound to the body is already traumatic for the body. I can't imagine what it's like for the brain and the chemistry of the brain to help heal the body from that. So the same thing. Again, the charges brought against them for, the robbery will limit the ability to seek or, obtain appropriate mental health counseling. So that's what makes it difficult to determine or make an adequate prognosis, because there's still this idea that they're probably going to go to prison, and probably for a little while. Yeah, because
but like you said, with the speaking to the healing of the mind and the body, and then like reconciling the fact, yes, you were shot by like your friend. This is somebody who you love. At the end of the day, like y'all were still really good friends and grew up with each other before all of this stuff started to happen. And that adds another element to the already convoluted, intense, highly emotional circumstances that they all experienced and went through.
Mm-hmm.
Last but not least, how would you treat Yolanda?
I mean, I don't know how I would treat Yolanda, to be honest. I don't know. I don't know, because the problem with that is that in order for me to treat Yolanda, she would have to be wanting to seek treatment. Any of them, obviously. Because the problem is she doesn't realize that there's even a problem. So why would she even, come to me for services or to get a diagnosis? So to me, I feel like Yolanda, if we were working together and she was to say, I got a problem with little boys.
That's how she would say it.
The little boys. I don't know what I would diagnose her with. I didn't even consider her. I'm sorry. She's a 9. A non-MFing factor.
Bitch. A non-motherfucking factor, bitch. So clearly Q is way too old for her to be considered to have any affiliate motives behind their interaction. I would be more just concerned with her as far as healthy relationships, working through the fact that she did go through the loss of the divorce. Is this just something that she's experiencing because of the loss of divorce, those feelings of failure, reverting back to something that she knew previously, like did she get married at this age, and this is the type of relationship that she was used to before she entered into a marriage, looking at what she wants out of relationships, because is Q emotionally mature enough, and now with all of this going on, even capable of giving her what she is desiring out of a relationship? Was she just having a funky good time? And this is one case instance where she just wanted to dibble and dabble, and she felt like he was mature for his age, and it went from there. Did she know his real age when they first started talking? Did she develop a relationship with him and then found out that he was still out? All things that I would have to take into consideration and explore with her. But I definitely think that if she were to seek treatment, it probably wouldn't be for because she had a problem with little boys. It would be because she was just looking for a more clear direction for herself, be it through life and relationships and interpersonal interactions, as well as intrapersonal. Because it does seem like she has some self-growth and love that could happen, that could stand to happen as well.
Agreed. Yeah. And she has some things to work through, for sure.
Yes. And while the clinician in me loved analyzing this movie in this way, the little kid in me disliked it, because I was like, no, but I don't want to think about Q going to prison. He got the juice now, and he's going to be fine, and no one's going to snitch on him, and everything is okay, and there's nothing wrong with Yolanda, and he has an older girlfriend, and that's cool, and his little brother got a boombox out of it, and I'm sure none of that is going to happen. Probably not understanding half of what happened when I first saw it at the movie theater, because I don't remember my reactions to it. I just remember
because you were 4 years old.
But I remember the experience of going, and I remember seeing Tupac fall.
That's traumatizing as a kid, man.
Not as traumatizing as watching Boys in the Hood and seeing Ricky shot. And then,
I mean, then there's that. But, you know, the most traumatizing experience I had was watching The Temptations and seeing Blue die. Like,
but didn't Paul shoot himself in the head in the car?
But you didn't see it, and you were too busy singing Papa Was a Rolling Stone to even realize that he got shot. That he shot himself. I'm talking about Kid Rosie.
Well, Kid Rosie, I'm sure saw a bunch. You saw anvils being dropped on characters' heads on Looney Tunes. So we're Americans. We can't get away from the violence. It's everywhere.
You're right. I feel like I need to watch something funny now.
And if you do, I'm sure someone's going to get violently hurt inside of it.
Yeah, you're right. Well, friend.
Thanks for kicking it with us this time on DSM, Diagnosis Sitcoms and Movies. If you think a guy or you love the show, be sure to check us out. As always, if you want to leave us a review, because we're counselors and we actually care what you think, please do so. Peace.